All right, Kyle, it's kind of a favorite topic for me. Influencers, they come sometimes in a second, sometimes they're a lifetime and everything in between. And when I speak different times, I talk a lot about my grandfather a lot, and because he was impactful for me a lot. Him, my grandmother, my mom, my aunt came from Kyiv, Ukraine, years and years ago to immigrate into Canada, into Montreal specifically. And he used to take me for walks in the park in Montreal when I was about 5. And one day I asked him, I call him Zaid, I said, how do you know all these people? Because he talked to everybody, and which is probably the gene that I ended up getting. And not a bad gene, but a gene. And and he said to me, you see that guy over there? One day I smiled at him, and he looked at me and smiled at me and came over and started laughing, and we started becoming friends. And then someone else came over, saw us smiling, and came over to us. And I'm thinking, my 5-year-old brain, I remember it working. And some of my friends say that's because it's still at the same level, but that just means I need new friends, I think. So my brain said, well, this is great. All I have to do is smile in my life and it'll be cool. And it was
Mhm.
real in my mind. And then you start getting older and you make things more complicated, which is terrible. But then you start getting wiser and you think a smile enough is impactful and can make a big difference. So that's just one influenced in sort of type of situation. Can you share with us two or three people that have been influenced in your life?
Yeah, Mark, not too dissimilar to you. I can't think about influencers without thinking about my family. My parents, both of them, my mom and dad, were really a core influence across my entire life. Both all Canadian basketball players at universities here in Canada. They were both my coaches in sport growing up. They had a really unique dynamic between the two of them. My dad was supportive but super competitive. Really had that, work ethic, drive, always give it your best. Can't take anything less than, say win or die mentality. And he was an exceptional athlete and exceptional coach and always got the best out of his players. And my mom was a little bit different, also an exceptional athlete, but patient, a great listener, really hardworking, but did everything in silence in many ways. And she really taught me that you don't necessarily always need to be right. Sometimes it's okay to be kind. And I think I have a nice balance of those two. I mean, I'm probably more like my mother than I am my father, but this balance of, let's say, intensity and empathy, I think is just such a unique blueprint for leadership that I, carry forward into my life and with my wife, our dog, and, our future family. And so that's, yeah, something that's really always stuck with me. I can't think about influencers without just thinking about my parents and everything they've done.
I love that line. You don't need to always be right, just be kind. Um, it's true. It's true. And in coaching, you learn so much and it applies to businesses too. The ROI you get from being kind and being clear with a player or employee or whoever is incredible for their loyalty that comes and the performance and everything else. It's not that hard and it makes so much sense. You did mention your grandfather previously about how he was I don't know if you use the word obsessed or really interested in the ancestry and whatnot. What influence did that have on you?
Yeah, he is, he's our tie to our Métis heritage and um, really a big part of the work that I'm doing now, I have to attribute to him and his struggles and his successes. Uh, After he was getting a little bit older, he really wanted our family to know about our history and uniquely was had a reconciliation check. He actually ended up being able to invest that as a residential school survivor, and he was able to invest that, made some decent money on that investment, and with that, hired a private investigator to trace our family tree all the way back to the Red River. And it was really with that moment that I think everybody from my mom to my uncles and aunts to my 12 cousins really began to understood that shared heritage, that collective heritage we have right back to the Métis roots in Red River and the 1885 resistance and the Northwest resistance and Louis Riel, who's probably the most known Métis person. And we
Yeah.
have family members that are like in that picture that you see
Wow.
in Canadian textbooks. So it was kind of with that I think sparked a lot of our family's interest and pride in where we came from.
I love the word pride. And I remember Louis Riel because I studied him in school and stuff. So it's really cool. I think it's so important we all have a foundation, and it's so important that they're diverse backgrounds of families and whatnot that you can learn from each other. And you said it before, you can disagree, but maybe there's a learning in the background of some community versus another community. And I mean, if it was all the same food, all the same language, all the same everything, how boring would that be? Type. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet, Mark.